Curiosity. Kill the rat. Curiosity. Kill the rat.
Hello and welcome to episode 1.
Episode 1.
How
we finally
exciting.
made it.
I know.
I'm excited.
Of Curiosity Killed the Rat. Yeah, we've been talking about making this for what, like 6 months now, and we
Something like that.
finally got our shit together enough, and here we are, episode 1, Curiosity Killed the Rat. Science podcast where we just sit here and we chat about some cool science things, and hopefully you get to learn something from it too. I'm Kate. I'm a neuroscientist and self-proclaimed know-it-all that loves spewing science garbage at anyone that'll listen.
And I am Matt. I make sounds happen.
I make sounds. I can do that too. I have vocal cords.
Yeah, no, let's not go down that rabbit hole of just screaming into the microphone, as fun as that would be.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, I mostly just make sounds happen. I try to make them sound good as much as possible. But, at the end of the day, I love learning about science. I've always been interested in it. I thought about pursuing it academically, but I was like, nah, I'll get a career in the arts.
Clever boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, career in science is no more stable than the arts. Trying to get grants and stuff for research. It's a whole thing.
It's a thing.
If you want a stable career, science is wrong. But if you want an interesting, fun career that you want to learn stuff, that's when science is cool, because I think science is cool.
As do I.
And that is why we're here today.
And we hope you think science is cool as well.
Otherwise, what are you doing?
With
How
your
much
life.
money did Matt pay you to listen to our podcast? If
I
you don't
have
think
no
science
money
is
to
cool?
pay them with.
Oh my God.
Because,
Anyway.
like I said, arts.
Yeah, no, okay, cool, checks out. So, are you excited to find out, Matthew Dearest?
Oh, yeah, because I don't know what the topic is. I mean,
No.
you guys will probably know what the topic is because it'll be the damn title of the episode. But I'm coming into this completely cold.
Yeah, so what we did is we narrowed it down to 3 topics for our opening episode. Matt picked a colour, which was associated with one of the topics, and so I've learnt everything there is to know, hopefully, about this particular topic. And you ready to find out?
I'm more than ready.
Pins and needles.
Oh, yes. I wanted this one.
Pins and needles. Yeah, so pins and needles, the worst, right?
I mean, sometimes they're all right. I feel like there's 2 kinds of pins and needles. There's the one where your foot just feels like a really nice beanbag, and it's honestly just kind of pleasant. And then there's the one where it's actually like real spiky,
Yeah.
That's, aggressive TV static living inside your foot.
Well, I mean, as with, most things, it's not just a binary of low pain, high pain. There's a whole range of severity when it comes to pins and needles, through from just a little cheeky prickle to some crazy ass fire ants with freshly sharpened swords stabbing aggressively at the underside of your foot.
Oof. Mood.
Yeah. But, funnily enough, pins and needles is not actually the medical name for that sensation.
What?
I know, right? In a world
But
of
it sounds so
convoluted,
clinical.
Yeah, a world of convoluted clinical terminology, pins and needles is not legit. No, it is in fact known as paresthesia.
Paresthesia.
Yeah, which comes from athesis, which is ancient Greek for irregular. I may have pronounced athesis incorrectly because I am neither ancient nor Greek, but
I disagree. You are old. You
I'm
goddamn boomer.
25.
Yeah, boomer.
I'm a millennial. Leave me alone. Anyway,
Let's be
yeah,
real.
so
Millennials are boomers too. Okay, I digress. Go on.
stop. We're talking about paresthesia. Pins and needles. We're talking about pins and needles. So, like we were saying before, right? That can range from anything from like a little mild bubble to a very painful, horrible thing. And it essentially is what occurs when your sensory nerve cells aren't getting the nutrients that they need. So every cell in the body, every nerve cell or any cell, they need certain things to survive, just like you and I. They need oxygen, they need like glucose, some sort of energy source, sugar, and they get that via blood flow.
Flow.
All of these, nutrients are like stored in the blood, right, and transported by the blood to all the different body parts.
Right.
Yeah, so when you cut off that blood flow or something, then these cells are no longer getting that nutrients. But we'll get to that later. First, I want to just take a little sidebar and talk about neurons, nerves.
Jimmy neurons.
Crazy, right? The neuroscientist wants to talk about neurons.
What?
So neurons, for those of you who aren't aware, are just nerve cells.
That's hold on, that's really pleasant. I quite like that voice. That's,
Shall I just do the rest of the episode in this voice?
honestly, yeah.
I don't know. Sorry.
Honestly, I feel like I'm listening to Audible right now.
Okay, so the quick rundown on neurons, in particular sensory neurons. There are a few different types. No, I'm not keeping this up. I'm
That's
sorry.
actually that's terrifying. That's classic narrator voice right
Yeah,
there.
no,
you know.
sorry. Theatre kid, can you tell?
What?
Me? Dramatic. How dare. Anyway,
How dare you? Is Greta too political?
a little bit.
I know we said we weren't going to be political, but surely a Greta meme.
Not a Greta meme. I love Greta.
I mean,
stand
are you
Greta. She
saying
is
that
my
meme was a
goddess.
bit regrettable?
I think you should regretted that meme, definitely. Okay. Sensory nerves. Sensory neurons.
Correct.
It's what I was trying to tell you about before you turn into a complete twat.
Yes.
Right. So your sensory neurons are essentially they're the neurons or the nerve cells that transmit messages from the outside world to your brain.
Of course.
So, there's lots of different types. Some deal with touch. So, they tell whether you're stroking something smooth or whether you're running your hand up and down a cactus, right?
Yeah.
They'll tell you temperature, pain. There are all different types of nerve cells, but they're the ones that go from the outside to the brain.
So nothing important.
Nothing important at all. And so they're in contrast to the other type, the other major type of nerve cell, which is your motor neurons, which travel from the brain to the muscles.
Right.
To tell your body to maybe take your hand away from that, really, really hot plate that you decided to check if it was warm yet by using your bare hands.
Of course.
Which
How
I
else would you?
definitely never have done.
I disagree.
Pretty much, there's a whole bunch of nerves in your peripheral nervous system, and some of them are sensory, some of them are motor, some of them are both, which is really cool. But it's our sensory nerves that we're talking about in terms of the good old pins and needles
Excellent.
sensation. So as I mentioned before, pins and needles is caused by not getting enough nutrients to those nerve cells. So they normally get it from the blood, and so that's why when you cut off the blood supply, you deprive them of nutrients. So that can be caused by something serious like a tumor. If you've got a tumor growing in you and it's kind of obstructing the blood vessel and not letting enough blood flow through,
Right,
that can cause...
Because pins and needles do normally start from, if you're sitting on your leg real funny and, kind of restricting that blood flow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and that's what it is. And because you can have a tumor, or it could be something, as simple as sitting cross-legged on a milk crate drinking a double espresso because you're a hipster wanker from Melbourne.
Good to know that both of those are equally likely when I feel that sensation. I'm like, oh boy, did I just sit funny or is this cancer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The giveaway will be, do the pins and needles go away or not?
Right. So does that mean, is that what cancer feels like? I know we're getting, is that too heavy for episode 1?
No, I just can't. I'm just going to stop you right there and say I don't know. I've never had cancer, thankfully.
Right.
I don't know what cancer feels like. But presumably, if you have a tumor and it's not a benign tumor, it's a cancerous tumor, and the position of that tumor happens to be obstructing, a major blood vessel to your foot, permanent pins and needles may very well be a symptom. Not the only
Right.
symptom, but
Because the tumor would grow big enough to kind of block off the blood
Yeah,
vessels.
exactly.
And it's kind of like a permanent cross-leggedness.
Exactly.
But a little bit more deadly.
So if you've had pins and needles continuously for, a couple of weeks, I would suggest going to see a doctor immediately. But yeah, no, you're right. Exactly. It's caused from sitting weirdly or somehow obstructing the blood vessel. And that's not when the pins and needles hits though. That's when you get that my leg has fallen asleep sort of feeling, when the feeling when it's gone
like
numb and you don't really feel anything and it's gone to sleep. And generally when that happens, we'll either notice it and, move so that the blood can get back to our leg, or we won't notice it consciously, but unconsciously some part of us will notice and we'll shift. Either way, it's when we shift our position after our limb has fallen asleep, bam, that's when the blood returns. And that, so you'd think, right, oh, cool, return blood flow to our deprived appendage. Business as usual. It was not business as usual. Scary voiceover.
There you go.
Voiceover narrator. So yeah, so essentially you've opened the floodgates. A whole lot of blood has rushed straight down to your foot or your hand or whatever, and your sensory neurons, they panic and they overfire and they misfire and they send off these little spontaneous bursts. And, you know, we've got thousands of sensory neurons. And so each little pinprick or whatever that you feel is each one of those cells going, whoa, and sending off signals, and your brain interprets that as pins and needles. So, yeah, how cool is that, right?
So pins and needles is just your body freaking the F out because it's got no idea what's going on because they've kind of just like...
Your neurons like kind of pass out a little bit from lack of food and water and oxygen.
Because you've just starved them of everything by cutting off the blood circulation. And then rather than waking them up gently, you've just thrown a fucking bucket of ice onto their heads.
Yep.
And just
they go,
shocked their system. They're like,
oh, oh shit. Mission abort.
my microphone did not like that noise.
Don't do that again.
Oh boy.
And so that's what causes pins and needles, which like I think is really cool because I always had no idea, and I feel like as a neuroscientist I should know roughly what our neurons are doing. Yeah, so like
it's
it
such
normally...
a crazy sensation as well.
So
like
weird.
it's very indescribable.
Yeah.
I suppose it's similar to
I
like
thought my fire ant analogy was pretty relatable.
But it's so different from anything you would normally feel around that area because it's like coming internally and you don't normally feel things inside your foot, you know, you feel them, you know.
Yeah, because
coming
it
from the
doesn't feel
outside.
like you've stood on pins and needles. Like you don't feel it on the sole of your foot. It's sole of your foot.
It's just like Professor Lockhart cast the wrong bone mending charm on your foot, and instead of fixing it, you've just now got a floppy sack of...
Well, that's when it's asleep,
beans.
and then someone shot some crazy spell at it that's woken it right back up with an electric jolt, and that's the pins and needles.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not fun, but it normally passes pretty quickly, right? Like it's normally you're only in pain for like a few moments. If once again, I reiterate, if you have ongoing pins and needles, go to a doctor. But there are. Would you like to know the solution to the problem?
Please.
As in, there are ways that you can actually make it go away faster.
Make it go away faster. Is it? Yeah.
So, I mean, it's pretty instinctual, the solution. I think we all do it without even realizing that we've known it as a solution. But like, say, you know, pins and needles in your foot, you stamp your foot around, right? Or you hop up and down on one leg, or you just generally act like a lunatic to anybody that's watching. That's not as ridiculous as it sounds. It actually does something. So by like stamping your foot or
Really?
so getting your like calf, like hopping on your foot, getting your calf muscles like, you know, squeezing and stuff, it actually helps return the blood flow to a more regular rate a lot quicker. And so as the blood flow returns to a regular rate, your sensory nerves also adapt back to that sort of regular flow of nutrients and oxygen and stuff, and the firing patterns return to normal faster. The trade-off is that it actually tends to make the pain more intense initially. So you'll do it, it'll get worse for like a tiny bit, but then it'll be over sooner. So like I guess it's up to you. Do you like the
Rip the Band-Aid off, son.
Well, yeah, are you a rip the Band-Aid off, hard pain, get it done, or are you I'll deal with the mildly uncomfortable sensation for a little longer than I would normally have to, but at least it doesn't hurt too bad. I don't know.
You see, I'm normally the kind of person when it comes to Band-Aids, I will not rip it off. I will slowly peel that thing and, you know, draw that thing out as long as possible.
Okay.
Not because I want to experience the
Because you're
pain.
a wuss.
Correct. Yes. I've never denied this. I'm a big old wuss. I
You
hate
have
feeling pain.
tattoos.
Yeah, but I know that pain's going to be temporary.
And ripping off a Band-Aid is not temporary?
that shit lasts forever, man. That's
That'll scar you for
the
life.
difference is
I've
taking
seen
off a
some
Band-Aid,
things.
that's self-inflicted. I know exactly what's going to happen. A tattoo, someone else is doing that to me. I have no control over that.
I have a solution to that for you.
I'm scared.
Actually, no, it's not a solution. It's like an anti-solution. Because I was going to
That's
say,
why,
do
why
your
do I
own
want that
tattoos.
then? No.
Yeah, no.
That's a terrible idea.
a terrible idea.
I'm an
Don't do
awful
your own
artist and I'm scared of pain. Nobody wins.
Well, yeah. Well, then I guess if you get pins and needles, just flip and deal with it. Just sit there and deal.
I usually do. Yeah, I usually do. Do you know? Okay, look, this is a bit of a tangent,
Go.
and you
Tangent
may not have
away.
notes prepared on this.
Certainly won't, but I know some things.
When we get because I've been thinking a lot about, you know, I obviously said feet a lot for this when it comes to pins and needles because I find personally that's where I most commonly get them happen.
Same,
when
because
I'm getting,
I'm a classic, you know, sit in a chair with my legs up in the air, round sideways, crossed over in an
Correct.
obscure as a walking, talking stereotype human.
But what about foot cramps where you feel like the world is about to end? Where you feel like this is it, my foot's stuck like this forever. This is the most severe pain I have ever felt. I'm going to die. There's no escaping. This movement is garbage. Oh my God. Oh, it's over.
Yeah, no, I
get though.
I do know the fucking feeling well, my God, for when you're stretching and just like.
And it's the kind of thing, because, I don't stretch or exercise.
I would recommend
but I get it in
changing that. Yeah.
I get it in similar circumstances to when I would have pins and needles, if I'm sitting cross-legged, or even if I'm lying in bed and I'm just like arching my foot forward and back and then twisting it a little and oh no, it got it in the wrong spot. This is the way the world ends. This is the way the world ends. Not with a bang, but with a goddamn foot cramp.
Yeah. Well, it's a similar thing, right? So any sort of pain in the body is going to be to do with some sort of misfiring, or any sort of random pain, not pain like, if you've shoved your hand in the fire, it's probably fair that the pain receptors in your hand are being like, hey mate, this kind of hurts. But, if you get like a random cramp or something, it's going to be due to some sort of misfiring of these sensory neurons. And, from what I've read, which may not be completely accurate, and I can't confirm too much, but from what I've read, like cramps tend to be more an electrolyte issue. So that's why they suggest using like magnesium supplements if you're prone to cramping while exercising. Potassium is another key one. And so if you're dehydrated or you've exercised too much or something, you're far more prone to cramps because you're the balance of the electrolytes in your body. So these minerals that help your body function the way that it should, and then the muscles as well. So the muscle won't function properly because of the magnesium. Potassium will also affect the functioning of the nerve cell. And so all of it will just go a bit funny because your inside is out of whack. That's why you should
Well, look,
eat
here's the thing.
fruit and vegetables with
but
vitamins and minerals. They're important.
Electrolytes aren't a problem. I eat plenty of salty foods, don't you worry.
Okay,
Me goren is a vegetable, right?
sodium, like kitchen salt, that's not the only important electrolyte. I just want to tell you that now. You don't get magnesium from
I
from eating
exclusively
mee
drink
goreng.
Powerade. No water.
Look,
No juice, just Powerade.
I'm
Just
not-
that salty ass cordial.
I am not going to say anything about any particular brands of sports drink. There are good brands and there are bad brands. There are like ones that are just mostly sugar and are a bit of a
Sugar,
commercial,
spice, and everything
commercial
nice.
lie. And there are ones that actually do have a good electrolyte profile for like endurance athletes and stuff. But yeah, I don't know.
Yo, what up? Energy drinks, sponsor us.
No, future episode idea. I'll look more into foot cramps or just cramps in general. I don't know enough, and I would like to learn. I will teach myself, and then I will teach you, and we shall teach you, fellow listeners, all about cramps. That for sure can be an episode.
Hell yeah.
Sorry if that was an unsatisfactory answer at the moment, but
No, that's fine.
I don't know everything.
I'd rather...
I pretend I know everything, but then you fucking go and catch me out like that. Here you are calling me out.
See,
Calling
I'd
my
rather,
bluff.
you actually go and do the research before answering, and I don't want you to bullshit something.
I mean, yeah, I'm not about to.
That's very anti-science.
Yeah.
Don't go spreading misinformation. That
No.
completely negates the point of this podcast even existing.
I would like to say that several hours of research did go into me understanding pins and needles before this episode. Anything that I tell you is factually correct based on what we know so far. I feel like that's the other like disclaimer that any science podcast or any science communication medium needs to have is like, disclaimer, this is what we currently think. Because in every area of science, even like really old science and like stuff that we think that we've understood for a long time, something will come out that completely throws that hypothesis in the bin. Nothing that we know is really known. It's always just our best guess. And like that best guess is, backed up with years and years and years and thousands and billions and quadrillions of dollars of research.
See, gravity is only a theory.
Yeah, I don't know about gravity. Hey, that one's a bit up in the air.
Yeah, I mean, it was an average movie at best. I don't know why it won all those Oscars. Like,
Those movie. I don't know. I'm really uncultured.
you don't know the movie Gravity?
I don't know the movie
That's
Gravity.
like iconic. It was Sandra Bullock, George Clooney in space.
It sounds like I should know it because I know those names. No, I don't know the movie.
I mean, I'll be honest, I haven't seen it, but it's iconic. It was like one of the highest budgeted films of all time because it's pretty much 100% CG.
You've got to remember that I don't go see movies very often unless they are Star Wars. or musical theatre.
Nice.
So,
I'd say it's about time in the episode that we answer the one question from the general public. Given it is our first episode, we don't actually have anyone in the public who listens to this. But I was able to ask my housemate for a quick question for us. So basically our plan is at the end of every single episode, we're going to answer a question from the public. You can send it in to us. We've got a Gmail account, curiosityrat@gmail.com. That's one word, curiosityrat@gmail.com. What was the question, Kate?
so Josh gave us a wonderful question. He wanted to know what would happen to the Earth and to life on Earth if the moon was bigger.
Oh.
Yeah, if the moon was bigger than it is now, or bigger than the Earth even, like what would happen? What would that mean? What would that do? Which of course I had no idea. I was like, that's a really good question.
Well, of course, physics is your field.
Oh yes, I'm an astrophysicist as well as a neuroscientist. No.
All science is the same, right?
Yes. No, but luckily Google exists, and I loved learning. So I went and I found out. So essentially, because the moon and the Earth, well, as in Earth's moon, because obviously lots of planets have moons, but our moon in particular and our Earth are a system. They're a cohesive system and they work together, and the gravitational pull of each affects each other, right? It's like it's a working symbiotic relationship. It's lovely. It's so wholesome. So the way it is, that's, things are fine and dandy. But if the moon was bigger, it would obviously have a much bigger gravitational pull, right?
Yeah.
And that's gonna fuck with some stuff. So the first thing it's gonna fuck with is the angle of the tilt of the Earth. So if you weren't aware, our Earth is not straight. It is queer. I mean, tilted on the vertical axis. The vertical axis is at a little bit of a tilt. And the tilt of the Earth is actually held in place partially due to the moon and its gravitational pull, which is really cool. So planets like Mars has 2 small moons, and its tilt actually wobbles around a lot. Like it's a really inconsistent. It's not held in place because it's got the 2 different moons, and as they all orbit around each other, etc., the tilt of the planet shifts. Whereas Earth doesn't do that. Whereas if the moon was bigger, it would affect the tilt. Our Earth would probably be more tilted. It wouldn't wobble because we still just have the one moon, but it would certainly be different to what it is now. The other thing that would happen is if the moon was bigger, especially if it was bigger than the Earth, obviously it would not be the moon orbiting the Earth. It would be the Earth orbiting the moon. So our days would be different, and the way we experience seasons would be different. We'd have a heck ton more tidal waves, which is terrifying to think about because, once again, also the gravitational pull of the moon affects the tides and the waves, and essentially waves are pulled away from the shore by the gravitational pull of the moon. And so if we had a really big moon, we'd have much more severe tidal waves.
I'm imagining like that scene from Interstellar when they're on that water planet that's orbiting the black hole.
Yeah.
And the waves are just, absolutely massive.
Pretty much that, yeah. If we were a little planet orbiting our giant moon, that'd be that.
True, because we would be orbiting the moon, not the other way around. If the moon ended up bigger, because then it would no longer be the moon.
We would become the satellite and it would become the constant.
We would be the moon.
We would be the moon.
Yeah, screw landing on the moon. We are the moon.
We are the moon. Yeah.
There's a tinfoil hat theory for you.
Yeah. And then the one final thing, I mean, I'm sure there's probably a million things, and the ecosystem as we know it would be vastly, vastly different. But the other major thing is if we were orbiting the moon and it was bigger, there would be large periods of time where, if you think about it, because our system of Earth and the moon would still be orbiting our sun, right?
Yeah.
But there would be points in time where the moon sits directly between the Earth and the sun, which we currently experience as a solar eclipse. Yeah. But if the moon were bigger than the Earth would just be in like complete shadow. It would be completely shadowed from the moon. And that could happen for up to like 2 weeks at a time, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so, there are places on Earth, like at the extreme north and south sort of poles of our planet, where during winter it is dark for the whole day, and during summer it's light for the whole day. But essentially, if the moon was bigger, it means life on like the equator would be like that. It would just be dark all the time during some periods of the year. Yeared? What is a yeared? That's not a word.
Yeah, past tense.
Yeah.
So in the future it'll be fine, but in the past, total darkness. The dark ages.
Essentially, that is a short compiled list of things that would be different about our Earth if the moon were bigger. So thank you, Josh, for asking that, because that was actually really interesting to learn about, I thought.
And thank you, Kate, for doing your best to answer that, given you're not a physics person. But I dig that.
It's science, man. Ask me a science question and I will go down the rabbit hole until 4 a.m. And I'm like, why am I still watching educational YouTube videos about astrophysics when this has got nothing to do with my life whatsoever? Maybe I should start a science podcast. And with that, thank you guys so much for actually listening to us natter about science. I had a great time. I love talking about science.
I had a great time as well. I certainly learned something, and isn't that what science is all about?
Science is always about learning, and, you know, not just about learning, but about sharing and about talking about, because if you can't talk about your science, like, what is the point in doing it? You know, here we are doing exactly that, and we will catch you next time on Curiosity Killed the Rat.
Thanks, guys.
Curiosity. Kill the rat. Curiosity. Kill the rat.